This is lesson 44, measuring lengths with a ruler. So length is the distance between 2 points. So I can go ahead and highlight that since that's a definition. A centimeter, it can be abbreviated cm, a millimeter, mm, and meter is just an m. So if you notice, those m's all stand for meter. This C stands for the prefix centi. This M stands for the prefix milli. That's always confusing to people, that mm for millimeter and just plain m for meter. I don't know. So 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter, and 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. So we're going to talk a little bit more about metric system and U.S. customary system. First, we're going to do the metric system. So I've got a ruler that has metric system. These are centimeters, and then these are inches. So this is U.S. customary. This is metric system here. Example 1 says the distance across a nickel is about 2 centimeters. So I went ahead and measured out about 2 centimeters here. 2 centimeters is how many millimeters? Well, let's see. If I said there's 10 millimeters there and there's 10 millimeters there, then I have 20 millimeters altogether, right? So, 2 centimeters equals 20 millimeters. How much does 1 centimeter equal again? 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters, right? Okay, example 2, we're going to slide that down because I think it's easier to already use what they have. The length of the rectangle below, so there's that. And they've given you a ruler, and you can see that it's the same as my ruler, right? They've got it marked in millimeters, and they tell you millimeters. Mine is marked in centimeters. It still has both measurements on there, but mine says 4 and theirs says 40. It's because they're measuring in millimeters. Okay, so if I want to draw a line right down here, and I'm going to erase it, so don't write in your book. I can see that that's 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 25 millimeters. It's also 2.5 centimeters. Isn't that crazy? So 25 millimeters. So that's the International Systems of Units, or the metric system. There's a whole lot more to it, but each is a multiple of 10, so it's really handy. It includes a base unit, which most of the time is this meter, and then multiples of 10 denoted by the prefix. Now we're going to talk about the U.S. customary. It has lots of fractions. It's so much more complicated than the metric system, but we're more familiar with it, so it might be easier to you. I have inches, feet, and yards as measurements of length. I have miles too. So 36 inches, 3 feet, 1 yard are all equal to the same amount. It's a yardstick, right? 12 inches equal 1 foot, 3 feet is 1 yard, 5,280 feet equals 1,760 yards equals 1 mile. So all that. Okay, the trick with using a ruler with the customary system, the U.S. customary system, is they're broken down into halves, fourths, eighths, 16ths, 32nds, and 64ths. And if you can zoom in on my ruler here, you see that 32nd and that 64th? They kind of broke up between 3 and 4 into little tiny measurements. Here they don't have quite as many, and if you look down here, they don't have very many at all. So do you see how there's different lengths? So the longest one is a half, the next longest one is a fourth, the next longest one is an eighth, and the next longest one is a 16th. So we're going to ignore this part because that's a little more complicated than we need to get into. Let's look at your book. How many inches long is this arrow? So I know it's 1 inch. I know it's 2 inches. It's not quite 3 inches, is it? So remember how I said the longest one is 1/2? So it's 1, 2.5 inches. That little line is halfway in between 2 and 3. If it came to here, it'd be 2 1/4. Because that means I would divide this into 4 sections. You know, we've been doing fractions. Because it comes right here, I've divided it into 2 sections, there and there. So that arrow is 2.5 inches long. Example 4, a mangrove skipper butterfly. Let's see, did I write that down? Is 2 3/4 inches closer to 2 inches or 3 inches? So that's how big the mangrove skipper butterfly's wingspan is, 2.5 inches. Let's get my ruler out, or 2 3/4. So it goes from right there to right there. It's a pretty big butterfly, huh? Okay, so is that closer to 2 inches or 3 inches? So if I do my number line, I can see 1, 2, so it's somewhere in between 2 and 3. I have a fraction. I don't have all the way to 3. And if I break that into 4 sections, because my denominator's 4, and I take 3 of them, I see that that is closer to 3. Then they start asking you, what would you measure? Using inches, using centimeters, using millimeters. So if you wanted to measure a car's steering wheel, think about a car's steering wheel. Would you use inches, centimeters, or millimeters? Probably inches, right? What about a button? A button on your shirt? It's probably, unless it's a really big button, too small for inches. Probably too big for millimeters. I'd probably use centimeters for a button. You could use millimeters. What about the tip of a pen? That would definitely be millimeters, wouldn't it? What about the width of a human hair? So if the hair was that wide, you'd want to measure it. Definitely way skinnier than a centimeter. You'd have to use millimeters. What about a shoe? Probably inches. A nickel? We already found that. Oh, it was centimeters, wasn't it? So you can measure it however you want, but you want to come pretty close to being a whole number when you measure. You don't want to have, oh, a shoe is 10 millionth of a mile or whatever. It's kind of, there's no right answer or wrong answer. There's just easiest to use answers. Okay, good luck with this.